It is now 7:30, so we'll start the meeting. And welcome to any residents that are watching. Tonight, after the open forum, we've got the usual reports from the clerk and ward councillors and an update on the clubhouse project. We have 6 planning applications before us this evening: a 2-storey extension at the front of 3A North Street to replace the existing single-storey building, a loft conversion and raising of the ridge on 18 Bullington End Rd, a 2-storey rear extension and front porch at 17 the Chequers, and a revised dual access onto Wolverton Rd to the new build and existing property at 1 Wolverton Rd. That's Joyce's old house. There are 2 applications referring to tree work. Castle Lodge, the removal of sycamores to protect some yew trees, and some work that's been recommended to us, Parish Council, on trees in Castle Field, which need attention. The resolutions tonight include a technical update to our standing orders to bring them in line with recent government regulation, and some correspondence from Historic England about replacing a dead tree in Castle Field, the reciting of a dog bin in Castle Field next to Thrupp Close, the use of a consultant in grant applications for the clubhouse, and the contract for the provision of landscaping services with Milton Keynes Council. There's also a part 2, which is held in private to protect the confidentiality of suppliers, in which we'll consider quotes received for new speed indicator devices, various maintenance work at the sports ground, and a new seating fence at the Chequers. Our decisions will be published in the minutes of the meeting. So that's this evening's, if that's enticing enough agenda for you to stay watching. But we'll start with the open forum, and I'd like to welcome you, Cathy, to talk about the Stop 3000 trees. If you want to pull forward a bit, then people who are watching on the live stream, that's the microphone that we used. Yeah, that's
cool. Okay, so thank you very much for inviting us to come and speak to you this evening. I'm not one of the subject matter experts, but I am part of the group that have been campaigning to raise awareness of the warehouse development. One of the reasons that we wanted to start the campaign was because we felt nobody knew about it. I live in Cosgrove and I didn't know about it. I only found out about it through word of mouth. And we just felt that there would be a lot of people that would be impacted by it, not just in Cosgrove and Old Stratford, but also obviously Castlethorpe, Hounslow, Havisham, Stony Stratford, Deans Hanger, Pottersbury, Yardley Gobian, lots of villages that will be impacted, not only by traffic, but also, as Tony mentioned, by the loss of soakaway and therefore the flooding that would then go on to Stony Stratford in the River Ouse. So our motivation really has just been to raise awareness as much as we possibly can, to give people the opportunity to oppose it if they wish to do so. Obviously not everybody agrees with it. So what we have done is we've created these leaflets, which we've had delivered just through a team of volunteers in all of the towns and villages that I've just mentioned. We've also got a website which provides a lot of information. Really good. Thank you. We've spent a lot of time on it. We've got 2 people that live in Cosgrove that have spent a huge amount of time actually going through all the planning application documents and reading them and deciphering them. I have to admit, I can't make head nor tail of them. They're so long and boring, so I glaze over before I've even got to the first paragraph, but they have done that and spent hours and hours doing it, deciphering it and making it understandable for people like me and hopefully other people as well. And then also trying to extract the valid reasons to object, because we know that we don't want it here isn't a valid reason to object. But we do think that the traffic and the flooding and the environmental impact all are valid reasons to object. So people can find on the website reasons to object. There is also a template that people can use to write to the council.
I would say that's a very long letter. That's the only thing I'd say. That it's, I think,
Yeah.
If there was a shorter version, like one side or something like that, which just sort of listed briefly the sort of objections, I think that would be better, because I think it's about 3 pages.
It runs on to the 3rd page in its current format.
Yeah,
it's quite tight. But perhaps we can come back to that when
absolutely.
we finish.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, our incentive to do that was just to give people all the reasons why they could possibly object, but they don't have to use that template particularly. They can take whatever aspect they feel is relevant for them. And ideally, we would want people to write their opposition comments in their own words rather than just copying and pasting our objection. But we know that not many people will have the time or maybe even know how to do that. So we've just tried to make it as easy as possible for people to do. I've had an email from somebody that lives in Castlethorpe actually asking if we could print some templates and offering to post them through every door in Castlethorpe, which we actually don't agree with. We don't think that that's the right thing to do.
Sorry, you don't?
No, because not everybody agrees with it. I mean, it's one thing raising awareness and giving people the chance to oppose it if they want to, but actually posting a template.
What is actually your ask of the Parish Council, Castlethorpe Parish Council?
Well, we were asked to come and talk to you this evening. So it was really just to see what your views were about the proposal, what you're doing as a council. We are also trying to take on some consultant expertise, because obviously we don't have that. We've had a crowdfunder as well to try and raise funds to pay for that expertise. Cosgrove Parish Council have commissioned a report which we're sponsoring as well, which is with an environmental consultant and a flooding consultant. We have written to other parish councils. I didn't write to Castlethorpe because obviously you're not in West Northants, but we've written to all the parish councils in the vicinity that do come under West Northants and asked if they would consider funding for any consultant expertise as well.
I think to me the point is though it does affect everybody around here. If we think that traffic was bad when Hanslope were having a development, and the 508 is horrendous to get out onto for starters in the mornings, and that roundabout is quite often back up to the castle, the Cosgrove turn, and I just can't imagine what it would be like with that amount. I mean,
I think you know, all of us, I think all councillors anyway, are very supportive of the objection. Now, we did, when this first came up, we did formally object, and so we have, as the neighbouring council, we have put a letter of objection into the to the planning authority. And I mean, we have also said that if Cosgrove Parish Council wants us to do anything else, you know, just to let us know, and we'll do that. I'm pretty certain we're not allowed to contribute financially outside of our own parish. I think that's the law. Yeah. So we can't join in as a council with the crowdfunding. I was very slightly surprised, because I thought what you were going to ask us to do was to pay for the printing of leaflets.
All right.
And in fact, I did ring up our printer today.
Oh, really?
Got a quote for a 2-sided, so it doesn't have to be 1-sided, but for 2-sided, you can get your letter down to 2 sides of paper, which is only 40 quid for 500 copies if people want to deliver it. But I mean, it's really up to the campaign as to whether that's your ask or not. If all of the councillors were to agree, then it is within our clerk's delegated authority to approve a sum as small as 40 quid. So, you know, we could do that, but I don't quite know where we want to go from here, because we are supportive. We'll do whatever, you know, is asked of us, you know, within reason, really.
Yeah, well, as I said, I've had a letter from somebody in Castlethorpe asking for exactly that.
That's where it started.
Yeah,
Right,
it's not-
okay.
and then I was talking to someone who
Part of
Right.
Yeah, what we could do is we could stay through Facebook and sort of social media group, things like that. If you would like a copy of the letter, let us know. And then we could take it from there. Maybe we could put some at the shop.
Yeah.
But not print as.
I think these are, I mean, I haven't seen this before.
No.
Have you seen
No,
this?
that's what I said. I don't think we have been leafleted. You've had that one. I don't know.
No.
Well, the Chequers is a superior.
Yeah. Special. Yeah.
I mean, I've got,
If we could have some copies and then maybe we could supply them to those who want, you know, anybody watching this, for instance.
Yeah.
We could say, if you want a copy, just contact Parish Councillor and we'll get them to you.
yeah,
I don't, can I
we have,
just ask, Russell, are you still in a position to update, put something on Facebook, or would you rather Kay just did it as an individual rather than?
No, I can do it. No problem.
Okay, so Russell, who's not here, but
I'm in France.
he's there. The wonders of technology. He can't vote, but he can speak. So. Yeah, he could post it up as an official Castlethorpe Parish Council post.
Yeah, absolutely.
Look, if you liaise with Kay on
Yeah.
this, we'll do that. I mean, that's really no trouble to us at all.
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
thank
If there's
you.
anything you want to do in the village,
Yeah.
then
I mean, and I would just say, Alison, I mean, the turnout onto the A508, you know, will affect Hanslope as well. And whether it would be worth the same material and the same ask, because all they're asking for is publicity on Facebook and website.
It does
Oh,
fairly quick,
Then you know it would be good there. Russell,
Just one thing, just West Northants Council planning have emails, or can people actually do it directly online?
Yeah, so all the information.
Because if
is
that's the
out.
case, if there's a PDF available they can download, they could email it to them.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, there's an email
Yeah.
address, a postal address,
okay.
or you can go down.
But there are people who aren't tech savvy. I think those are the people
Yeah.
we're trying to get to. Yeah.
Well, I mean, the problem is, unless you put stuff through people's doors, the people who aren't tech savvy are not going to be able to respond. I mean, this is one of the reasons why we did a formal poll
Yeah.
at Clubhouse rather than just going on Facebook. So I think all we can say is, and rather than, you know, we only normally have 15 minutes for this session. So
Yeah.
if you'd like to pass it to Kay will make sure that Russell gets the information. And if you could also, Kay, pass it on to Alison,
Yeah.
and then that will make sure it also goes through to Hanslope.
Got big versions that would put them on notice
Yeah.
boards.
Yeah.
I can leave these with
You
you.
want to
Okay.
write them a bit of-
Could I just ask one more thing as well? Because I know that Castlethorpe's objection was very much based on the traffic. Are you aware that National Highways have now come back and said that they've got no objection?
Well, I did read well, your letter. It was about- I read something. I don't remember what it was, whether it was a
Right.
letter or not, but yes, I mean,
So do we need to put another objection in?
That was what I was wondering, whether it was worth you writing again. to
now
somebody.
there is a problem here. We have considered this. It's not a planning matter on our agenda. So as a parish council, we cannot send in a letter of objection at this stage. What individual councillors could do is to send a letter and sign it as a councillor, but we can't sign it as a council because it wasn't on our agenda.
Right, okay,
You know, I'm afraid it's just the.
that's okay. The other thing that we've added to our website is to councillors that people can write to themselves.
Yeah.
To make
Okay,
just
all right.
raise awareness.
Lovely, thanks.
All
So,
right.
Application is over 1,000 pages long.
yeah,
It's the most smoke and mirrors application you've ever seen. We have a vehicle on the roundabout, on land I'm interested in, and I'll be pretty certain Frampton leaned on East West Northampton to get it moved.
Yeah.
A lot of power there. Yeah.
yeah. And can I
And
just,
all applications, all objections got really done a lot. Personal practice, so it's unbelievable.
yeah.
See,
Can I just ask, are the ward councillors or borough councillors on side with the objection?
On side, would you say?
Sorry?
Are the ward councillors on side with the objection?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
Ian,
cool, yeah.
Ian
Yeah,
McCall
it's
is
obviously
supporting.
still in.
isn't
Yeah.
even Andrea Ledson on the side?
Yeah,
Sorry?
yes, we've met with
Yeah,
her, so
yeah.
that's you.
I just think it's a literally another way, it's just another example of big developers just riding rough over absolutely
Yeah, obviously it's
everything.
close to Parish.
Yeah.
What's happening, you can't find anything.
Yeah.
There's Andy Bush was found there.
Right. Okay, look, I think we've.
Yeah, we've done with that.
Pushing those door here. Thank you very much, Cathy, for coming.
You're welcome, thank you for having me.
Are there any other matters that anyone would like to know?
You've talked
Right.
a lot on this application.
In that case, we'll now move into the meeting itself. And firstly, we have apologies for absence in a kind of physical sort of way, Russell, but Russell is still there, and Steve, who's also away. Declarations of interest. I have a declaration in the payment schedule because I paid for the Zoom license and I'm being reimbursed. Are there any other declarations of interest? No. Move on then to minutes of the last meeting. Are there any matters of fact in the last minutes that need to be corrected? In that case, I'll move that we accept the minutes. Can I have a second, which is Dave, and all in favour? Yeah, that's unanimous. I'll just sign those. So while I review of actions. Now we've got to be a little bit careful here because these actions can go on and take up half the meeting.
I'm on my way home.
Yeah. Well, I see you closed one of yours, Ian, so that's very good.
The next day, that'll be done.
Trade line.
Yes, yeah.
Because desperate,
Well,
which is the whole point of it.
yeah. So, right, oh, actually, can I have getting down? Just give me half a minute to get my. Before that. So, rather than dragging this out, are there any questions on items 1 to 7 on the clerk's report? Yes. Yeah, I'll come back to that.
Number 3, we've got quotes in for number 3, haven't we?
No, I don't think we have got quotes. We haven't got 3 quotes in for the arborologists in Castlethorpe.
No, I've got one so far, and
Which is where,
holes. Holes.
where's he?
I don't know.
So
Yeah.
I'll ask another
But
question.
I think for the sums involved, we're likely to need 3.
Yeah.
We're going to need 3.
So I'll have a question in another chat.
Okay.
If you know somebody who wants to join.
All right. In that case, let's move on to the open actions. Can I just ask where we are on the AED?
Yes, Richard's not responded to me, so I'm making my call. I sent a couple of email chasers. He said he was going to get back to me.
He's better on the phone, actually, Richard.
He said he was going to get back to me to check with his wife when he was available, and then we've had nothing since. So
Yeah.
it's a case of actually giving a call.
Okay. Can I ask if anyone is up for looking at floodgates? Because I really am stretched a bit.
Picking them up all.
What's a floodgate?
A floodgate is basically a gate that when it's shut will not let water through, and it's over the road there.
I can do that next week if you want to.
Yeah, it's a non-trivial thing because I thought, oh, that's easy. I'll just go and get it because Milton Keynes agreed to pay for it.
Oh, right, okay.
If
Well,
we
you
saw,
some stuff about it,
Yeah,
and then I'll do it.
all right, I'll try and
If
send
you've
that
got
to you.
anything
Yeah, I have. I
to
mean,
enlighten me,
I've got some, because the examples are from Stoke Goldington,
right?
where they had bad flooding a couple of years ago, and they did put some floodgates in, so I took some photographs up there. But just simply Googling these didn't bring them up, and I got all sorts of stuff, and frankly, it was with the clubhouse, it's just more than I can.
This is for the chestnuts,
The
the
chestnuts.
first lady,
First,
yeah, okay,
first.
yeah, no, right.
She gets water coming out.
And so Milton Keynes Council have agreed to pay for it, we just
They've
need to
agreed,
find one.
yeah, we've got it in writing that if we source it, I mean, we'll obviously check with them before we
Yeah,
finally purchase it, but they will then refund us.
okay, yeah, I'll do some research
Yeah.
into that, but it'll be next week.
That's,
but
by
I'm-
the way, that's Nick Hannon, who is one of the good guys. Who said that, you know, we do it, he'll arrange payment. So,
Okay.
I definitely feel these days that I divide Milton Keynes Council into good guys and bad guys. So, there's some very good ones and there's just appalling ones. Right, rather again than ploughing through these, are there any points that anyone wishes to raise on anything or update?
The only thing I was asking, what happened when you had a highways meeting over this place here? With the humps,
With the highways, I mean, they asked, I'm trying to remember that. This is the stretch of road here and replacing the hump. I think the position is that they're still considering whether they're going to replace it with a tarmac hump.
I think we've got to do similar times like long tarmac.
Well,
The road,
pumpy hands.
Do we have
You
to
don't-
keep on that?
No, but if you work it, the road needs redoing, doesn't it?
It does.
So you might well do the two in one.
Yeah.
I haven't got to
No,
worry
I think-
about your other things again.
This was, we had the meeting and it was presented last meeting actually, and I just can't remember now because
How
I'm
many
on
minutes?
holiday and it's all gone to haze of alcohol. But I'm pretty certain that what they said was that that stretch of road is going to be refurbished, I think in this financial year, which probably means March the 31st. And that they are considering whether they're going to replace the hump with like for like, or whether they're going to put a tarmac hump in. Is that your memory, Jackie? Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that would be better. Anything else on these?
It's all pretty much self-explanatory what we're looking at, isn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah. Okay, in that case, that's very good.
About the measurements of the flood code, do they stand size?
No, you'd have to measure it.
I'd have to measure that, that's fine, cheap. Just for all.
Ward councillors, news from the front. Is there any?
I've got nothing to report this meeting. No, usually you can't jump me up, unfortunately, but no, I literally have.
Did you get anywhere on the on the building completions and get a more other accurate number than 6 years or approximately for the 5-year housing supply? Because you know, in the past they've been like, it is 6.546 years. You know, I mean, it's like 3 places of decimals, and the way it came across last time was very, you know, waving hands, arms in the air and saying, well, it's about 6 years or something, which didn't strike me as the way they've normally done it. Did you manage to get any further response? I know you wrote. And, yeah.
No, unfortunately, I haven't responded back. I would chase it up very soon.
Yeah, would appreciate that. Yeah. Right. In that case, so really nothing. Alison.
Yeah, I was just going to say, that my past couple of weeks been dealing with a lot of people in the various villages about the new bin rollouts, which is coming to us here, Hanslope, Stoke Goldington, and so on, between the 10th and the 26th of August. I've actually found when we've had, especially in the kind of central villages, we've got a lot of the older houses. We're actually getting quite a good receptive ear from the Milton Keynes officers.
What, from Penny Fletcher?
Yeah, and evening, and her team, when I've gone and actually spoken looked at the houses, taken photos, that kind of thing. So it was just, if you know that there's anybody, especially in the centre of Castlethorpe, who's having a struggle and maybe hasn't got the outcome that they want, let them know to get in touch.
Right. I mean, I do know that there is a stretch of houses in South Street adjacent to the entrance to Maltings Field.
Yeah.
On the right-hand side as you go in, who've basically got rear gardens. They're actually showing them an open garden shoot and something really, really good actually. But you come out of the house and you then have to cross a common passageway, and you've then got their garden at the back, and they're relatively small gardens.
Yeah.
Now I took Richard Middleton anyway. What's his name?
Is it Rob Middleton you're thinking about?
Rob Middleton. And Penny Fletcher and Uncle Tom Cobley, because everyone was, well, Uncle Tom Cobley, I think, included Chris and George, but we walked around the village, and I specifically showed them this because they currently keep their bins just on Maltings Field, and said, look, there's room for 4 bins, there isn't room for 16.
Yeah.
They said, oh, I could just keep them in their gardens. Well, the gardens are really small.
What garden?
Yeah.
So that I'm sure they would be quite keen. I'm not, I mean, basically, I think the message is that if anyone's watching this, and you've checked on the postcode checker and you're not entitled to have bags in the future as opposed to the bins, then perhaps let us know and we'll talk to Alison about seeing whether we can get an exception for you.
Yeah, absolutely, because at the moment, if they're getting somebody asking for sacks instead of the bins, they're doing a desktop assessment, so they're just looking on Google Earth, which isn't always the best thing. So, and then they'll send out somebody for a site visit if it's really pushed for, but I have to find it's more useful if I go around, take some pictures, send them through as well. So
Yeah.
it's just in case you're getting some, because people get upset if it's their home.
Yeah. On the walk round, they took a really, really hard line. I mean, really. Yeah.
But it seems to have been, because I think there's been an understanding that, yes, it's brilliant for so many houses, but not for a certain proportion. There seems to be a bit of flexibility there.
I mean, I characterise it that sort of for 90% of our houses, it's absolutely fine.
Absolutely.
For 5%, it's completely impossible and Milton Keynes recognise it. And then there's a middle ground,
Yeah.
which typically are the Edwardian houses that we've got, where you could just about squeeze them in. But I really don't want our street scene to look like poor old New Bradwell.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, you know.
There's one house that's the other way around. They want the bins.
Yeah,
That have been told they're getting sacks.
Yeah, that is true. But yeah. Anyway, that's a message from the residents watching that that we can do that.
I'll talk.
Very good.
I'll talk to Kevin because he's in that road. Yeah.
Anything else for councillors? Right.
What 2 things, sorry, on the clerk's report, but if you want to miss it, don't worry.
Oh.
32. We've had a sports meeting. We haven't had a sports meeting in nearly 2 years. I didn't think you got to be sorted out. We need a meeting.
I think Russell said we're going to organise that when Steve's back from holiday, end of July.
Okay.
And the other one was
sorry. Russell just wants to speak. Yes,
Sorry,
Russell.
There's a plane flying overhead. We're going to be calling a meeting when Steve gets back in.
Yeah, thanks. That's what Jackie just relayed that. Yeah, thank you, Russell. And other one?
33, the complaints we've had at Bullington End Rd with the gentleman, what he's done with his front garden, etc.
Yeah.
Obviously, you've spoken to MK, said he's got to restore it. But he's been doing more paving work. By the sound of it, what other people said, he's going to take the hedgerow right all the way to the top. Surely it's not allowed.
Well, it's
a tenant.
It's not allowed. Milton Keynes, Ward councillors, basically it's a property in Bullington End Rd, council owned property, where the tenant has basically dug up all the lawn and indeed the boundary fence and hedge, and is replacing it. We had some complaints from residents. I passed this on to Milton Keynes Council. I did have a response. Again, it was through Kate Pettit, another one of the good people. And she got someone from housing to respond to me who said that that this was not permitted, and that the tenant would be required to reinstate it. However, it was not regarded as a matter of urgency, so it might take about a year to get that done.
Well, basically, he's taken a whole front garden up, he's trimmed the trees down, took the boundary hedge out, fence out.
Yeah.
He's taken the car parking concrete place that was in for a motor, and he's taken the concrete path up so nobody can walk to his front door, only over gravel or whatever now.
Yeah, but I mean, the thing is, we have discussed it. It has been raised from Milton Keynes Council, and they have said that they're going to take action.
Tonight, so
right. So let's get back on the agenda. The clubhouse progress. I put a short note up earlier today. Basically, following the June meeting, our June meeting. The project board went ahead and finalised the invitation to tender, and that was reviewed by an external consultant to make sure it was compliant, and it's been published on the Government Find a Tender website, which is one of the reasons we've got to change our standing orders in accordance with regulations for tenders of this size by public bodies. And I've also put in the note where you can find the ITT. Russell has put it up on our website, but you can't link directly to it. You have to put our website name, castlethorpepc.gov.uk/clubhouse, and you can see the ITT there. The return date is the 11th of August. The tenders will then be evaluated, and I will then call an extraordinary meeting to award the contract. The one supplier came along last week to see what was what, and we've got a second one coming on Thursday. There'll always be two of us, of course, one of whom will be the clerk. Planning have actually been very helpful and have alerted us to objections as they've arisen so that we can respond to them. There's one outstanding objection which does peeve me a bit, actually. It's from Highways about the amount of car parking and also about a cycle rack and EV chargers. We've written to say we will provide a cycle rack, because that's not very expensive, but we won't provide an EV charger because the usage of an EV charger by the clubhouse users is likely to be pretty trivial, wouldn't warrant the expense. We've also written to say that the car parking spaces for the clubhouse will be less than at a different time of day to the sports club usage. I mean, I don't know how many cars you'd expect for 40 people who live in the village anyway. I mean, it's like half a dozen, maybe 10 cars. And we know there's at least 30 spaces up there. Anyway, but they're insisting on it all being drawn out, showing all where all the car parking spaces could be. It's a bit of a pain because the resident who was doing our drawings for us has been on holiday, but I have asked him today if he would please do this quickly. It is going to require a slight delay, because when there's a reconsult comes in, they give them the statutory consultees an extra 14 days. So even if it went in today, which it hasn't done, it would take until the 17th of July rather than the 10th that we originally had. And it's going to slip day on day. So we do need to get that done, but hopefully we will one way or another.
Dan respond. Have you heard back from Dan?
No, I haven't, no.
Right.
But I did, yeah, I know they're back from holiday. I mean, that was part of the problem. They were on holiday last week. The funding application has been to the Leisure and Community Committee after it's approved. Did you see my email on this? I mean, honestly, So it was approved by the planning gain officers, passed to the leisure committee, which is a secret committee. We're not allowed to go to the public, which I'm really surprised with. I didn't know Milton Keynes had meetings where the public weren't allowed to be present. You have to make your case through the officer, who's very helpful. I mean, they're all very helpful. And now it looks as if it's gone through that, but it now has to go to the corporate portfolio board. I mean, would you believe this? I mean, as I say, it all makes work for the working man. And Steve Bradbury will be starting the grant search process, particularly for phase 2, which is the clubhouse fit out when he gets back. And he's recommended we use a consultant, and that's agenda item 7.5. So any questions on clubhouse? Right, in that case, let's move on to the planning applications. The first one is the erection of a 2-storey front extension on 3A North Street. If you look at this, they've got basically an extension that's 1 storey. The building itself is 2-storey. Conservation, who are normally pretty hot on this sort of thing, have raised no objection to it. Does anyone wish to raise any matters concerned with this?
It's just up there.
Yeah, just up there, absolutely sure. Okay.
The house is set back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You will see.
Okay.
Without an extension, but you've not even do that.
Okay. So no objection. 18 Bullington End Rd is a loft conversion. So they're putting in Velux windows in the front. They're raising the ridge, which I was slightly concerned about, but I did walk down there this afternoon and had a good look. And actually, the ridges on your road, Darren, they're all over the place anyway. So I don't think anyone will really notice.
So 18's number is quite hidden as well. It's quite a large tree.
Well, they have, but I mean, in fairness, the roof does stick well above that. But anyone got any issues with this? No. Okay, no objection. 17, the Chequers, which is says demolishing the side of the carport. The big thing is that they're putting a 2-storey extension at the back and a small porch on the front. And well, I can't personally see any issue with it.
Porches, when they have the porches, will overhang anyhow, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is, yeah, they have got an overhang there, yeah. In fact, I think it'll make it look a lot nicer than it is.
Good work.
So, any objections? No objection. The next one is our own, carrying out recommended work on 4 trees in Castle Field to the side of Castle House, which for any residents watching, when a tree fell down, we had an arborologist have a look at the other ones because it did some damage to the boundary of Castle House. And we had an arborologist look at the other trees on that boundary, and some work has been recommended. Because it's scheduled ancient monument in the conservation area, we have to put a planning application for that work, and that's what this is. The next one is some removal of 2 sycamore trees and a canopy lift of 2 yew trees at Castle Lodge. I wonder, Russell, I know you've been and looked. I wonder if you could just update us on I know you wrote it down, but it's probably better to hear from.
Yeah, there are a lot of trees actually in the garden there, nice trees, and there are 2 quite ugly sycamores that are very, very tall. One of them's actually got 3 trunks all intertwined, and they're pushing up and pushing the more mature trees out of the way and interfering with them. Yes. So I think in the interest of all the other trees, that it's fine. I don't have any problems with the sycamores being felled.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay, no objection. And then we come to 1 Wolverton Rd, where they now want to bring the access road, have a dual access road onto Wolverton Road instead of Joyce's old house coming onto Wolverton Road and the new property coming onto Bullington End Rd. If I put my 2 pence in, I actually think it will improve it, because one of our objections was that they had their entrance road approaching the side of the house, which is actually against planning policy. You're meant to have your house facing your access road. So I think this would make it look better. It's pretty much in the access road is pretty much in the same place. My only 2 comments on it are from looking at the plans. I'm pretty certain that Highways had an objection that they needed to put a footway in to reach the drive, so that people wouldn't be walking on a grass verge if they needed to walk to their house.
Yeah.
And I couldn't see that in the drawings. And the other one is something that wasn't mentioned there at all, but councillors will remember that we were pretty upset when they took down a number of the trees. And we did talk to the ecology officer at Milton Keynes Council, who put in a planting plan that he required them to have on the site to try and compensate for the loss of what were 2 very fine trees and 2 category B trees. I think they took out.
Cover beach.
Yeah. Now, taking this out, taking the access road out, moving it, means that boundary, well, it actually means they need to take the trees down, which is really sad. But it also does mean that they could potentially plant more trees on that boundary. So my suggestion would be, I personally would recommend to the council that we would say we don't have objections to moving the access road. They do need to put in the footway, and the planting scheme ought to be agreed with Milton Keynes ecology officer.
Which they were supposed to do with mature type trees, but then they must be in place for 5 years.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, but fundamentally, it's the ecology officer who will decide what it is. Any other comments or any comments on that?
I quite agree about book that.
Yeah.
Can I ask, are they keeping both houses enough? Because they've built the other one so close to the.
If you look at the roof line, I wouldn't be surprised to see an application come in on my mother's old bungalow to have it raised and joined. Nice big house all together.
Because they built it like it literally looks as though it's like this.
There's no look,
Sorry, that's diverting. I just wondered.
Yeah, the planning method before us is.
Yep.
Right, Jackie, are you comfortable with that? Good way and the planting scheme, okay, and we're all in favour of that, yeah. So that is, I think, not an objection, no objection, but request conditions.
Yeah.
Right, we'll take section 6 as a whole, which is previous planning applications. Are there any questions on any of those?
No.
No. Okay, in that case, formally then, 7.1 is to agree to a public excluded part 2 of the meeting where we're going to discuss these quotes that I mentioned earlier. I'll propose, I need a seconder, which is Darren, and all in favour, unanimous. 7.2 is to adopt revised standing orders as recommended during our internal audit. And if you've had a look at the document that Jackie put on file, it's basically just tidying up the rules about how we buy things, and going to 3 suppliers in certain cases, and going to the find a tender website when we go above a certain amount, which we did with the clubhouse. So any questions, or can we move just to a straight vote on that? Right, I'll propose, all in favour. It's non-financial, so it's okay. Consider 7.3 is to consider the response from Historic England. Sorry, if I miss you, Russell, just shout, Just unmute now. I'm sorry, I don't always look at the screen to see if you're.
Yeah,
waving
I'll
your
put
hand.
I'll put the new document up on the website tomorrow.
Okay, thank you. 7.3 is to consider the response from Historic England regarding the replacement of the dead tree in Castle Field. I mean, there's a little bit of formality in that we've got to get a scheduled ancient monument permission or something. But more to the point, they're saying we've got to dig out the same hole and put the new tree in the same hole that the old one came out of, which does strike me as quite a difficult thing to do. I'm not used to planting trees. Ian, you know about this sort of thing, don't you?
What they're worried about, is the wall situation up there, he was saying, where it is.
No, they're worried about disturbing the artifacts.
At the end of the day, if we tell them when we're going to dig and we say, if you want to turn up, you turn up.
No. What he's saying is he's going to condition any consent that we have to put the new tree in exactly the same place as the dead tree and dig out a hole, take the dead tree away, put the new tree in the same hole that the dead tree came out of and put it back. And I just thought that seemed hard, but I don't know these things. Is it hard? It's not hard.
Tree.
How big a digger do you want up there to do the job?
Well, that's right.
Personally, I would cut it off the ground, all stuff, and plant it behind it so it's away from the wall. So it's more or less filling the straight line, because they wouldn't stand like that.
Do we know why the other tree died?
Short of breath.
Old age.
It wasn't, if it was disease or anything, and you put it in exactly the same spot, then you're going to cause problems, really.
I mean, can I just suggest that is the dead tree removed yet? Is that the one that Ian took?
No, that's different.
Yeah.
There's four at the end of Castlehouse Garden there.
It's the one at the top boundary.
They're the ones that they're talking about, the ones on the boundary of the sports field.
Yeah.
They're in like, they're in square things.
I mean, the annoying thing is,
Let's go last the chappy, took them up from Bullington End Rd where Parish Council blind them, took them up there and blind them.
I know.
And one died.
It's those ones.
Go back where we are. Yes, dig it up and put it back in. Simple.
Let's look on the positive side. They haven't said no.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and we can have another tree.
No, I mean, I don't think there's a problem with the consent. The problem is potentially with the cost of doing it.
Yeah.
But look, shall we just note that we'll take away the old tree, which presumably isn't much, is there? Yeah. And I think we just need to see what, in due course, a quote comes in for a new one. I'm very reluctant until we've got the clubhouse finances sorted out, not to start spending lots of money.
Are there any other owners?
We're not wealthy like Hanslope.
Phil, are there any other owners?
No.
Nobody else owns.
No.
Okay.
I'll check that already.
No, it was made over to us by the Stacys when they
So quote for another one at a future day.
yeah, at a future date. 7.4 is to agree to contacting a contractor to move the dog bin currently in Castlethorpe by the truckload's entrance further away from residents. This was because we had a complaint from the resident that it was actually making his back garden smelly, which is, fair enough, but not very nice. Thing is, I don't have an objection to this, but only Steve knew, or do you know, where it was meant to go?
I think Steve said to move it further down into Castlethorpe.
Are you allowed to dig it up? We can't do a trade.
I mean,
just move it.
Well, yeah, you've got to make sure you don't move it next to another resident.
I'm thinking it further into the field, down towards.
Behind the sofa.
Behind it. On the wall.
Move along that hedge line. Are you confident that you know roughly?
I don't know
where?
exactly where it is, but that's
Okay. Well, on that basis, then, does anyone want to discuss it, or shall we just move to
Get on with it?
Yeah, we're all okay. I'll propose. Another one from Steve was to approve the use of a consultant. This is a chap called Mike Deegan, to help prepare an expression of interest for the Community Foundation grant. Try and make sure that we're successful with the clubhouse funding. And I know he wants to use Mike Deegan for other things like a national lottery application and various other things that we'll need to do for the phase 2 of the clubhouse. So, I mean, he's not got a cost in here, but I see on the payment schedule that for his work it was £40
an hour.
£40 an hour. It's £160 for his work on getting the ITT shaped up. So it's not expensive. On that basis and on Steve's behalf, I'm happy to propose that. Everyone, okay, all right. The next one was to consider a please leave quietly sign for the sports ground. I'm actually going to defer this one. There were some complaints that came in from residents, which turned out to be Stony Stratford youth teams, I think, that were cricket teams that were mucking around in there. You're shaking your head in.
Well, the legal fine, it was Neil's football presentation night for all the kids of the football.
I think again that's a different one.
That was on that Saturday night, right?
This is the one where they're playing loud music and playing.
Yeah, someone was in the car park, a couple of lads were in the car park.
The Saturday night one.
Yeah, with their car doors open, playing loud music and apparently trying to do wheelies on the gravel. The exchange of emails that I saw seemed to focus in that it was a couple of lads from the Stony Stratford youth team that were doing it. And David Spinelli has spoken severely to them. So, yeah. So A, that's gone away temporarily. B, there's only another month or so of play. And C, we will put new signage up anyway as part of the clubhouse.
Yeah.
So I would suggest that we put an appropriate sign then rather than spending money now on something that's going to have very little.
Because the thing is, no matter what it's Stony Stratford Cricket Club, no matter who's using it, there must be a timeline and them staying up there. Who's going to lock the gate? That's the main thing.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, I mean,
I think it's we had that spell of nice weather, didn't we?
That doesn't matter whether you've got nice weather.
I mean,
yeah.
I think your point here is that there always has to be, because those gates are locked, there always has to be a person in charge, in quotes, of that sports ground who will lock up, but also is responsible for the behaviour of people on it.
Anybody.
You know, Carl with the tennis, or Neil with the football, or David or Stuart with the cricket. Yeah. Okay, let's move on then. Now 7.7 is about the Milton Keynes Council landscaping agreement. Now, this is 16 pages of quite dense contract. Do you, Darren, as one of the two councillors responsible for this with Steve, have you been through this and can you commend it to the council?
I have not been through it.
You've not been through it. In that case, what I'm going to suggest is that we defer this until Steve gets back. And I'm going to ask that we delegate authority to Steve, Darren, who's been looking after landscaping for us, and the clerk, to sign the agreement if they're satisfied with it. But I started wading through it today, but
that's used to be sorted out in September, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's got to be done by the 11th of August.
Oh.
But there's still time, but there's not time to leave it for our next scheduled meeting, which is 4th of September, because we don't meet in August. So that's why I'm recommending that we delegate it to everyone.
It's back to the date.
I think it's 18.
Right, that's fine. We're going away on the 29th. So
yeah,
if we need a hand in there, that will know maybe bits and bits we've perhaps been missing.
Yeah,
because RTM are not doing the job they ought to be doing.
No. There's a contract between ourselves and RTM to which you're referring to, and you're absolutely right. And you need to talk to Jackie about that, because she, you know, this is their last year, and we have had problems, and we've, you know, and Jackie's been trying to sort it. We're changing contractor basically. Well, you know that because it's with you. This is the contract between Milton Keynes Council and ourselves, which I have to say is clearly written by Milton Keynes Council lawyers, and I'm surprised that some of the bigger parishes who do their landscaping, like Wolverton and so on, haven't tried to get a slightly more balanced contract in there. You know, for example, termination is, you know, they can decide if we're not performing adequately and terminate the contract. There's no way we can terminate the contract. I mean, it's
I had a quick look at it, Phil.
Yes, Russell. Oh no,
I had a quick look at it. I had a quick look at it. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you, not okay, but we can hear you. I'll tell you what, can you very quickly switch your video on? It tends to improve the sound quality.
Yeah.
A way of saying you don't want to look at it.
Yeah, I had a quick look at it, and is that any better?
Yes, yes.
Right, okay. I had a quick look at it, and it seems to me that they can basically dump anything they want on us, judging by the first bit of it, which seems a bit unfair on us.
In what sense do you mean dump anything on us?
They can devolve anything to do with landscaping or anything else on us.
We must be very careful on that, and I'll ask Darren and Jackie to be very careful. The one thing we absolutely must not allow to be dumped on us is trees.
Yeah.
Because trees are very expensive, as we're going to find out, for those which we are responsible for. And that is currently Milton Keynes Council responsibility. Yeah. So thank you for that, Russell. Anyway, so I'm proposing we delegate. All right, all agree. Considering financial matters, then is the next one, the RFO payment schedule. All this one up. And basically, so we've got the routine things that we have pretty much every month. We've got the tree survey that we had done in Castlefield that we referred to earlier. The balance of the seesaw up in the Thrupp Garden, Thrupp Close play area. Oh, I can't do this. Sorry, I've got. Yeah, I'm on it. You need to elect a chair.
Dave.
Okay.
I'm not going to leave the room for this. I really am not going to leave the room for this.
I mean, do you want me to go through everything on here?
No.
The only one I would like to bring up is no repairs. Was there VAT on it or not? Because the amount of money he must be turning, we should be VAT.
No, there wasn't.
Surprises me.
Okay. Has anybody got any queries on here?
No.
Okay, in that case, I ask if someone wants to approve the payment schedule. Ian?
Yeah, you need a seconder as well.
Okay. All in favour?
Now, here's an interesting thing. Who signs it? Given does Dave sign it? Yeah.
I'm not going to do that.
Dave, can you
The actual big light when you go out the door.
Yeah. Well, there's yeah.
Should we sign it?
KM Dave.
Is this thing still installed?
Right, so let's move on. Correspondent EC, have we received any correspondence?
Not officially, I have, I sent it to you.
Well, yeah, not, it just,
It was a bit late, wasn't it, really?
yeah, it's after the, yeah, so we can pick that up in the other business.
That's fine.
Okay, well, any other business?
Oh, well,
Okay.
Yeah, okay, so I've had sort of talk, basically. Do you want me to date it, by the way? Yes, yeah, okay. Okay, so, yeah, I had a resident from Walton's Field, contact me about, there are 4 street lights that are still unpainted, apparently. Yeah. And I don't think that's for them to chase, because that's a Parish Council thing, isn't it?
Well. We weren't painting all of the street lights.
Okay,
What we did was we replaced all of the non-heritage street lights. And as part of that replacement, they had to be repainted. So that was included. A couple of years ago, we did have badly worn street lights repainted. And I know that Stephen Naveed actually walks the village. Naveed is another good guy. Woman, yeah. Walked the village and identified all the streetlights that needed painting. And I know that Thrupp Close, for example, was very badly worn and had to be redone. No, sorry, not Thrupp Close, because they've just been done now. Lodge Farm Court, yeah, Lodge Farm Court was repainted, and a number of others were repainted. But if the Maltings Field streetlights, which I think were previously heritage style anyway,
yeah,
so that would have been a Milton Keynes responsibility to change them over to LED. They wouldn't have been included in our.
so they're basically not on the schedule to be
They're
painted.
not on the schedule to be painted.
Okay,
If they need painting,
yeah,
then perhaps next year, if we've got any money left, we'll, because it wasn't actually that expensive if
okay.
you have a whole batch done.
By next year, do you mean 2024, or do you mean like?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I think we need to, I think we just need to get through the clubhouse stuff before
Yeah.
we start.
Get that. Okay, there was also the person I spoke to about the lines at the top of Maltings. They said basically they've all, I think the residents of Maltings Field have said no, they don't want that, because what they think will happen is that people who park there now will just move back down into Maltings Field. But that still doesn't solve the problem to me, the fact that actually what it's all about is whether emergency vehicles can get down there or not. So, and they're suggesting that South Street should be slanted parking, like in Stony Stratford, there's a place where that makes it and made one way. But
Well,
I'm not convinced that because the road's quite narrow anyway.
it is, yeah, I mean, we put slanted, I mean, we, the parish council, have put slanted parking in or redone it.
Yeah, and they've
Five
made
vehicles.
it just a couple of spaces.
But I don't think if you take that stretch up to Maltings Field,
I
I don't think it's
I
wide.
don't think it's wide.
In fact, actually, it can be tight for vehicles even with one.
Absolutely. But the problem
Oh,
there isn't an answer to South Street
No, I'm
parking.
coming round South Street tonight, and there's four roads there. You've got no chance of them parking at an angle.
Yeah,
Yeah, there
Okay.
are businesses
Well,
now parking there as well. I mean, there's regular parking on the diagonals on the corner of New Street now. Somebody parks there, they park their van there, which they shouldn't, because that's obviously
Well,
not
look,
space to park.
yeah,
It
look,
is a
look,
problem. I
let's-
think
let's-
City
let's-
Council need to come round and have a look and suggest something. But
well, we have
Actually, getting some answer.
there is a bit.
no, we have walked around with
Yeah.
Milton Keynes Council. We have looked, you know, and actually with Russell as well, trying to find space, extra spaces in South Street, and the only thing we could come up with was by paying to have the Acorn parking,
Which maybe.
which you know.
The other one was that was suggested, which I'm just bringing up what was said, was parking permits. I'd be quite happy to pay to have
Right.
parking.
Now,
but
That's a
You may-
difficult day.
you may remember
it's a
that
resident.
this was raised by a resident in Station Road. And I did go into this, and it is a resident-driven scheme.
Yeah,
But the way it works is, first of all, the residents have got to effectively petition. Then there needs to be a person who take the lead. They've got to petition Milton Keynes Council for it, but they will have to pay. I can't remember what it was.
It was like £25 for the year.
£25.
And it was like, and they said that's too much. I think that's a bargain personally.
Yeah. Well, you've got that, but you do also have the fact that you've got people coming to drop off children at the Acorn nursery, and they've got to stop somewhere.
But they should use
And
the slanted farming.
You've even got people coming to visit the blacksmith. Who've got some.
They go down the lane. Down Ben's Close, sorry.
God, yeah.
No, no.
And another strong thing on purpose is that there's probably not enough spaces to get the amount of permits that are required.
That's right.
Yeah.
So,
I'm not sure, well, if everybody had one permit per house down there, there is enough space.
I mean, the fact that some people have got 2 cars, so where do they put the other car?
Oh,
If they've got a lovely kid, they've got three.
Yeah, indeed.
There's one guy with 5 cars in Milton.
Well, yes, and that was actually the cause of the problem
Yeah.
in Station Road. There was one household with five
Yeah.
cars there. Look, we can't. We have looked at this
Yeah.
in great detail. There simply isn't enough space unless people move further up South Street Park at the top, which a lot of them don't like to do because it's under trees. But the short answer on permits is
They need to.
they would need to, and I'm quite happy to talk to a lead resident and explain to them how they need to lead it. But when I tried to put forward the parish council to lead, I was told, no, this has got to be done by the affected residents, which is sort of logical.
Yeah,
The same
absolutely.
yellow
Thanks to
line.
me.
there's going to be a lot of parking on the A508 soon.
I could jog, literally come to the 508 and jog there. couldn't I?
Right, come on, we're on that AMB, we must. Right, yeah. And anything else? Right, in that case, next parish council meeting is 4th of September. There will almost certainly be an extraordinary one once the bids have been evaluated to award the contract. But that will be in the back half of August because the return date's not until the 11th. So if we get a few tenders in, I could imagine that we will perhaps call it in the week commencing, or just over a week later. We get a lot of tenders, it may take 2 weeks to get through it. In which case we might decide to leave it to the 4th of September rather than having. Anyway, we'll see.
I forgot to bring up something in the other business.
There's a MALC meeting next week, which I will be attending. The other MALC representative is meant to be by availability, but you can do it by Zoom. I have written to you and mentioned this.
Yeah, I saw you.
Yeah. So I won't embarrass people by putting on the spot now, but if anyone would like to join me either physically or join the meeting remotely, you'd be very welcome. It's mainly going to be about discussing a conference with Milton Keynes Council I have got the date, but I think it's about Octoberish sometime, and the arrangements for that. This 11.2, I haven't seen this one. It's about enrichment and resilience meeting.
Oh, I did send a note round. Yeah,
Yeah.
you did send a couple of people.
Did I?
Yeah, but you said without would be not interested.
Oh, well, there you
So
go.
I don't think.
Right, in that case, those are our future meetings.
I forgot to ask 2 things. One is, we asked about a bin on the sports field next to the bench, the new bench. And that was, yes, that's going to happen, but that's never happened. So I was just wondering what's happened about that.
Was it approved by resolution?
Yeah, it was, yes.
So this is for.
Yeah, so that there was rubbish being left sort of underneath the bench and things like that because people couldn't be bothered to walk.
Which bench? The one in front of the cricket?
Yes,
No, the other one, the one next to the car park,
Oh.
actually on the sports field there.
all
We
right.
said about putting a bin there, but that's never happened, and I think there was a spare bin going, to be honest, and they'd said, oh yeah, that's fine.
Well, there was 2 spare bins, but we've never seen them yet.
Yeah, so I was wondering what had happened about that, and the other thing was the Gobbies Field.
Sorry, can you just put that on the list and we'll just have to look at it?
Ask Steve Bradley what happened, he ordered the bins,
Yeah,
Yeah, well,
they weren't delivered to me.
you got in there quick. I was going to say, surely they'd have been
Right.
delivered to you here.
Too late. Got in there before you were.
the other thing is Gobbies Field. Now there's a footpath that runs all the way down that. Now I
Yeah.
can see now it's been just let go now with grass, and it's quite hard to walk through. And I wondered who has is that supposed to be upheld as in a footpath? Is there supposed to be a pathway
you're
through
meant-
because it's growing like
I think
that?
you're meant to maintain, I think yes, I think they are. That's right, isn't it?
You're
You're meant to
in some
maintain.
cases, it depends where you live, who you are and what you are, whether you will maintain it or not.
Well, it's about this narrow now
Yeah, well,
and about this high.
the only thing you can do is write to the owners of the field, say, could you please kick the footpath, which is, I think, 10 foot, something like that, 9 foot.
Yeah,
Because it's
Yes, I
really
think it is,
bad
yeah.
at the moment.
I've got a feeling the standard that they want is 3 meters, which is exactly that, yeah.
Yeah, it's
So,
pretty bad.
yeah, right, Steve has got, because he's been writing to them about permission for trees in the top of Gobbies, which we deferred for the time being.
Yeah.
I think if you could ask Steve for their address when he gets back, and then write and ask if they would cut the path.
Well, I
Thank
think
you.
you'll find that, I'm glad we deferred the tree, because I think you'll find the fact is they'll say, well, we let you have the trees, we want some houses.
Yeah, I know. Well, no, they didn't say that.
No,
They
they
said-
will, that's what I'm saying.
No, what they said was you can put the trees up if you commit to maintaining them. Just to let you know, in the call for sites, we will be putting Gobbies forward.
Which is why.
So they didn't do it as a quid pro quo, they just said that. But I mean, lots of people have put land forward in the call for sites. I mean, it's just. Right, okay,
Thank you, sorry about that.
right. In that case, that's the end of part 1. So. Yeah, you're happy to stay, actually, if you want. It's just.
You don't have to.
You don't have to.
If you do have a life.
Right, so we now, thank you, we're now close the part 1 of the meeting, public part of the meeting, so I'm going to stop the live stream.